Culture, teaching, and learning are interconnected. There is a direct link between student achievement and the extent to which teaching employs the cultural references of the student population. In order to close the achievement gap, the Los Angeles Unified School District adopted an action plan initiative that mandates the embedding of culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy into all content area instruction and district initiatives. By accessing students' cultural knowledge, prior experience, frames of reference, and performance styles, teachers are able to make learning encounters more relevant for students.
What I want to do with myself.
These strategies help students better understand and assimilate facts and concepts and enable them to make better connections and to scaffold their access to core content curricula.
So we wanted to take this opportunity to go into some of our classrooms in order to support teachers understanding what culturally responsive pedagogy is and why it is an important tool for helping students of color to access core curricula. We want them to understand how to operationalize it in classroom instruction.
So, who is an immigrant among us?
This mathematics teacher demonstrates how he embeds culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy as he introduces the topic of immigration in order to discuss ratios, percents, and fractions. The academic content standards addressed in this 8th grade world mathematics lesson include Algebra 1 skills, number sense, and mathematical reasoning.
I started a lesson in a non-mathematical way by asking students what kind of topics are on the news, what kind of issues are people battling with, what kind of political agendas are out there. What is the hottest debate in the political arena that people are talking about and in the news? Yes.
Whether to or to not give papers to immigrants, like the green card or the legislation.
Okay, very good. I wonder if all of us know what immigration means. Who is an immigrant?
People are not from this country.
People who are not from this country are called what?
Immigrants.
Immigrant. Oh, very good. So, who is an immigrant among us?
An immigrant is anybody who don't belong in the country.
Interesting. Immigrant, somebody who do not belong in the country? What makes them not belong to the country?
I don't know.
We need to discuss these issues. You said an immigrant is somebody who does not belong to this country. Who belongs to this country then?
Nobody.
Nobody belongs to this country. Interesting. What are we doing here if we don't belong here?
Living.
Why should we live here if we don't belong here? Let's hear another perspective. Who is an immigrant?
All of us.
All of us. Interesting. What makes you say that? What's your logical evidence?
How did we get here in the first place?
How do we get here in the first place? Very good.
We immigrated over here.
We immigrated right from here. I mean to here,
Even
right?
white people.
Why are white people immigrants?
Because, how did they get here in the first place?
Okay, very good. How about Hispanic people?
The same way.
How about African American people?
Black, Asian, doesn't matter.
Oh, very good.
I got here the same way.
Okay, very good. So, except for the American Indian, all of us, at one point or the other, immigrated to this country. So next time you see that title, immigration protest, immigration bill, or registration, I want you to think critically. Who are we labeling an immigrant? The students themselves arrived to the conclusion that all of us are immigrants. So by creating a problem scenario that deals with the immigrant, that it in itself made the mathematics embedded inside this cultural, social, political agenda very relevant to them, very real. Let's refresh on the standards that we are working on. Yes, Julio?
Algebra 1, 15.0. Students apply algebraic techniques to solve rate problems, word problems, and percent mixture problems.
Very good.
Number sense 1.3. Convert fractions to decimals and percent and use these representations in estimations, computations, and applications.
Very good. We talked about the standards that the students were going to be addressing today, and it is important for me to outline the goal because then they can self-evaluate and self-monitor. As you can see, we're going to do a lot of analyzing, and of course you have to provide logical evidence, and we have to use strategies. This is what our class is about. We are using strategies. Today's lesson was about fractions, ratios, and percent. And in that lesson, students have to define what the whole is. What's the whole in this ratio here?
7.
Again?
7.
Why 7?
Because you add them both.
Very good. So I took a lot of time and effort to make sure that students distinguish between a ratio and a fraction. And we actually had actual data of people that immigrated to the United States, and that made it culturally relevant to them. I want you to look at this data. We've been talking about ratios and proportions. And we said when we are dealing with the fractions, what is the number one thing we have to do before we try to manipulate and work with the fractions? What is the first thing we have to do?
Define the whole.
Look at this data. How can we define the whole?
All the regions,
All the
Together?
regions. What about those regions?
the ones who immigrated.
Okay. You mean the number of immigrants
Yeah,
in all the regions?
yeah,
Is that what you mean?
yeah.
Okay, then go ahead and say that.
The number of immigrants in all the regions.
Very good. Do we have parts in that whole?
Yeah.
Okay, Martha. What is one of the parts?
Europe?
Europe. Very good. Is Europe a part?
Yeah.
Do we agree?
Yes.
Write down some ratios. I'm going to give you 3 minutes here to work with. Talk with one another. I'm going to be going around and listening to your conversation. You may have to do some rounding. I want you, in 3 minutes, I want you to have a listed ratio or a fraction comparing one quantity, one region to another, or comparing one region to the whole. I have them talk in group because it's important for the students to be able to have somebody, especially at their level, to bounce off ideas, because within the groups, students are able to test their assertions with each other. They are able to share strategies, borrow strategies with one another. They are able to encourage one another. Now, let me see some samples of your work. We're going to publish them here. So I'm going to publish it here. I want you to, yes, I want you to tell us, very good. I see nice drawing there. I want you to tell us what we are looking at. Go ahead, come.
North America in 1821 through 1830.
Okay.
And in the Caribbean, it was 3,834. So I rounded to the nearest thousand, and since it's higher than 500, it went up to it elevated to 4,000.
Very good.
So then in North America, I did the same thing. So it went up to 12,000.
Very good.
So the total is total immigrants from Caribbean and North America.
Very good. The total, according to what you are comparing here, right? Very good.
My ratio would be 4 to 12, because since I could just black the zeros and I'll make comparing the ratio would be 4 and 12.
That's the ratio. When you're comparing two quantities, and you already all have done that today. There is a picture here depicting an event that happened a couple of months ago.
There was a day of the boycott where all immigrants went out to march.
Okay. All immigrants went to march. Where were they marching?
To make the president understand that we weren't, how you call it? We're a lot, and without us, there wouldn't be nothing.
Very good. Well, I have a problem I have made up this morning. And I'm going to write the problem here on the board, and we're going to use this problem to model the process of moving from a ratio to fraction, fraction to ratio to percent. So let me go ahead and do that now. The problem says that during the protest on May 1st, a day without immigrant, 4,000 students were estimated to have attended the boycott. 2 out of 5 students rode buses to the protest. How many? 2 out of 5. 2 out of 5. Very good. Now the question is, how many students rode buses to the protest. We teach our students to learn to communicate their thinking. When they're working on a problem, they must communicate their strategies, they must show visuals, diagrams, using language. So language is a very critical component in our communication as we attempted to interact with the mathematics in my class. I want you to have a conceptual understanding. These pictures are critical. They help you organize your thinking. Besides making the work easier, they help you organize your thinking.
The ratio is 2 to 3.
Very good. The ratio is 2 to 3. Why?
Because we're comparing students who rode buses to the protest and students who didn't. And 2 out of 5 rode the bus to the protest, so it's 2 out of 3.
Not 2 out of 3?
No, 2 to 3.
2 to 3. Now, what does 5 represent here?
The total.
The total. When the students come to the board, they communicate their thinking. That provides me with a form of assessment to know how well they're doing. But also they model that thinking process in front of their peers.
You could divide 4,000 by 5.
Very good. We can divide 4,000 by 5. Now, why 5?
Because as a total, if you add the ratios, it's 5.
Okay, there are 5 parts that make
ratio,
up
the ratio.
The ratio. And all of the 5 parts add up to
4,000.
4,000. So if we want to know the amount in each part,
You divide it
you divide. You divide by what?
by 5.
Very good. What does the 5 represent?
The total of the ratio.
The total of the
Ratio.
parts. Can you say parts? What if we had 15 parts that make up that 4,000?
Well, we'll divide it by 15.
Excellent. What if we had...
The models of embedding culturally relevant and responsive instructional strategies demonstrated throughout this video should be used as a blueprint for teachers in all content areas. The district's action plan initiative for closing the achievement gap is anchored in culturally responsive pedagogy. The research infers that instruction that is comprehensive, multidimensional, and empowering, that generates interest, provides motivation, and engenders excitement among students, fosters learning, and increases student achievement.